A friend of mine asked me today uh, if I would be doing any more videos, or I guess she said she was missing my videos. And I thought, well, that's really sweet. I didn't know anybody was watching my videos. Um, so, Christine, if you're out there, this is for you. Um, and because of your question about lenses, I was thinking about lenses today. And I was thinking about how we all have the lenses that we love. I remembered a workshop I did with a wedding photographer years ago. And his favorite lens was a 200 millimeter f2. Crazy big lens, like that big around. Um, and he talked about how much he loved it and used it at weddings. And I thought, oh, that's crazy. I barely use my 200 at a wedding. But he swore by it, absolutely loved it. He's also 6 feet tall, maybe even taller, big, strong guy, black belt in some martial art, I forget which one. So he's big, he's strong, big lens, big guy, kind of makes sense, right? Um, so I bought the lens because, oh, that's his favorite lens. Oh, he takes amazing pictures. I'm going to get that lens. So I took it to a workshop with another photographer in France. I feel like I did all these at the same time. I was a bit of a workshop junkie for a little while. So I go to another workshop with another wedding photographer. This one is a woman. And I was shooting most of the time at the workshop with that lens because I bought it in anticipation of a wedding I would be shooting, and I felt I needed to test it and see how it went. Um, and the funny thing is, that teacher, um, she commented on my big lens and said she thought it was not very intimate and it wasn't letting me get very close to the subject. Well, if you've ever been to a photo workshop with a bunch of photographers, there's nothing really very intimate about the process. um, you end up with 20 other photographers fighting for position, trying to get photos of the models, and I hate that anyway. So actually standing back and shooting with a 200 millimeter was fine. But she was right. It isn't a very intimate lens. You don't get very close. And her favorite lens was a 50 millimeter 1.2. So that means that you can get a lot of light in the lens. 1.2 means, it opens kind of wide. 50 millimeter is not a wide angle, not a portrait lens. You can kind of use it that way. It's what we call a normal lens. It's kind of your normal field of view. So I bought it, right? So now I have a 200 f2 and a 50 1.2, and these are the favorite lenses of two amazing wedding photographers. So I went to that wedding with all of my fancy new lenses, and I'm going to say I was shooting for 15 hours that day. It was a really big wedding. There were 450 people. If you've ever tried to shoot anything for 15 hours, and if you've ever seen this 200 millimeter f2 lens, I forget what it weighs. It's probably 8 pounds, 10 pounds. I have no idea. I'm going to say I shot with it for 20 minutes, maybe 30. I was exhausted. It was too heavy. No way was that going to work for me. So I put it back in my bag. Well, that was a big waste of $6,000. The 50 was nice, but this was a wedding with 450 people. So going back and forth to my bag wasn't a big option. Carrying two cameras was okay, but you're moving in and out and fast and around a lot of people. And yes, you do want to have a second lens, but it's probably not the 50 1.2. So that kind of stayed in my bag as well. The funny thing is, I shot most of that wedding with my sort of crappy 28 to 105 f4 lens, which is, it's not very fancy, it's not very special, but it gets the job done, and it covers a lot of ground. And um, I it was a long time ago, so I don't remember which other lenses I had. And I had a whole bag full of lenses that I, every once in a while, would switch it up, go back, get something else, just to keep the view new and fresh, and see things for myself a little bit differently. Anyway, today I saw a post by a photographer friend, um, and he was talking about the day that his camera bag was stolen and he lost everything, and had a really important shoot the next day of Pope John Paul in New York City, I guess. And he ended up having to rush out to B&H. He was able to get two lenses. He had an old camera body he could stick the lenses on, and he ended up making this extraordinarily beautiful photo of Pope John Paul kneeling at an altar, and reflected in the ground. I don't know how to describe it other than he was sort of in the side of the church and looking at the profile of the Pope, and then the ground itself was a bit shiny, and so he was low enough to be able to catch that reflection as well. Absolutely beautiful image. The guy had two lenses in his bag because his entire bag had been stolen. And that got me thinking that, the point is sometimes we just do our best work using what we have. Sometimes it's what we have, sometimes it's what we know best, but the lens isn't doing the magic, and it never was. I tell people all the time, move your feet, adjust your point of view, use what you have, grab your phone in your pocket if you have to. I've done that. I did that on a shoot where I forgot the right lens. And I didn't have anything wide enough. And some of my favorite pictures were taken with my phone that day. That works. Because above all, cameras don't take pictures. People do. And this is a I guess it's a funny lesson that you really understand once you've been doing it for a long time. People that aren't photographers are always asking me what camera to buy, what lens to buy. And my first question always is, what are you shooting? Because there's no answer. There's no one answer to that question. The camera to buy it's a combination of the best you can afford at the time, plus the camera that does what you need it to do. Now there are cameras that shoot video as well as stills, and there are some cameras where the video will focus as you're moving. So a subject is moving farther and closer, and my camera shoots video, but it doesn't automatically shift focus for the video. But I don't shoot a lot of video. So I haven't upgraded my cameras in many, many years because I stopped playing the game a long time ago. And it is a game. It's a game that the equipment makers want you to play. It's a game that photographers love to play and get all into the equipment and, how many megapixels, how sharp is this, how sharp is that, how fast is your lens. I mean, there is no end to the shifting playing field of the game. And it's so unimportant, really. Really, it is. Gosh, I wonder if my cameras are, I don't know if they're 10 years old at this point, but we're getting there. I have amazing lenses. I still have that 200 millimeter, which I hardly ever use. I mean, every once in a while I'll pull it out if I'm not traveling, or just for fun, because it's a fun lens. It's absolutely fun, but it's heavy and it's not appropriate for a job where I would be running around for 30 minutes. Um, yeah, and I feel like there's a parallel to be made about what's happening right now on social media. Um, and also what happened to me. I can't say what's happening right now because I can only speak through my lens. My lens is how I see the world. My lens is what makes me happy and makes me comfortable. And I love having an assortment of lenses, and I love um, having conversations about all kinds of things, metaphysical things, scientific things, business things. Um, and not everyone wants to or can have these conversations about conspiracies. That's kind of the big one that seemed to be causing a lot of trouble in my world. Was, you know, I wanted to talk about conspiracy theories. I think they're fun, and I don't care if they're true or not true, because I don't think that truth is really all that knowable. I think it depends what lens you're wearing. It depends, if your whole background is science and scientific, then you will believe science. But there there is a part of science that is the unknown part, the part that is a discovery before it's discovered. What do you call that? What do you call a thing that is true before it's discovered? That's a thing just outside truth or your reality. You can't see it with your lens because it hasn't become visible to you yet. And I love that part of the world. There are two things I love here. One, and I do this with photography all the time. I love to say that I work on the edge of what's possible. I love to work where it's almost too bright or it's almost too dark, and my camera can barely handle the situation, or I can barely see a thing and I still want to take a picture of it. I used to be fascinated with reflections, because if you photograph a reflection in water or glass or really anything, even a floor, typically the photograph of it will show the reflection better than you saw it with your eye. So that's a bit of an illusion, right? But does the reflection exist if you didn't see it with your eye, but the camera caught it? I kind of think it does. Just because we didn't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So that one of the things that I love is working on the edge of what's possible, and I love thinking on the edge of what's possible. So some people might call that a conspiracy theory. Um, some people might call it science fiction. Um, you might think I'm crazy if I say, I will not be surprised if one day aliens, not aliens, just creatures that we don't know to be like human of this earth, if they just show up and say, aha, we've been here all along. We didn't want you to know. It just won't surprise me if this happens. Things that are in movies all the time, and we look at them and we think, wow, that's crazy. I wonder if that's possible. Um, that's where I like to play. Things just outside of what is known. Things not yet discovered by science. I think that stuff's super cool. But I found out the hard way that not a lot of people want to talk about these things. So I am going to stick with people who do want to talk about these things. Yeah, because it's fun. It's really fun. Who doesn't like fiction, science fiction, conspiracy theories, all of that. I think it's so interesting how many people need things to be true, want things to be true. I don't know if they need it. Maybe that's why I love photography so much, because there's a piece of it that's true, and then there's like really there's the illusion of it all. And there's always the illusion of it all, because think about all of the things that are true in this room for me right now, but they are outside your field of view. You don't know what's in this room. Could be anything. I'm just going to leave it there, because I could go down this rabbit hole for a while. But if you remember one thing, just remember, cameras don't take pictures. People do. So the best lens for you is the lens that you like the most. That's the answer. See you when I see you.